Hi again, Andy here. Quick succession. So this is part 2 of the vinyl chain challenge, which I a few days ago did the part 1. So split it in two. Over the two, we're going through 20 albums, linking, as a chain. So linking one to the next by some sort of connection, and all the connections are different. We've got a mix of albums here, some slightly more obscure than others, some really well known, got some old stuff, some more recent stuff, so hopefully it's a good mix. So if you didn't catch the first episode, it doesn't matter. If you enjoy it, go back and watch the other one, hopefully. And we started, we finished the last one. Number 10 was OK Computer, so this is our link through to this episode, starting with number 11, and the link from here I'm going to pick. There are lots of opportunities off this record to pick, but I'm actually going to pick the same track I came into it with, Paranoid Android, and whilst the link coming in was Android from Robots, the link going out is Paranoid, and of course Paranoid, is to do with mental health. It's a mental illness, and I'm going with one of the great power trios, and the Groundhogs, and their album Split from '71, I think it was. Split is referring to sort of schizophrenia and mental health. It was, quite a departure for a band back then to start talking about this, and they were quite brave in some of their stuff. So the next one or the next two, can't remember, but a subsequent album, Hogwash, had a track called I Love You Misogyny, and it was all about misogyny. Again, not a subject which was talked about a lot of the time, but obviously with social media, trolls and so on, it's very relevant today. Great album, blues rock, classic blues rock. Started out in the 60s, really supporting John Lee Hooker on his tours of the UK. So out and out blues, converted really or evolved into proper blues rock. One of the great guitarists, in my opinion, Tony McPhee, is there. I saw him. Saw the Groundhogs, 72, I think, maybe late 71, but it was sort of around this sort of time. They were brilliant. And then years later, back in the sort of mid-00s, I saw Tony McPhee in a tiny venue, about the size of the back room of a pub, doing a solo slot, and was the idiot in amongst only about 50 people all sat down, air guitaring in front of the stage while the maestro played Cherry Red. And I'm going to show you, that was my original album back for first release, and this is a reissue fairly, a couple of years ago. Fire Records picked them up now, and they're gradually going through each of their albums and reissuing them, and with some extra stuff. So this is a double, and I'm showing it because the relevance. One of the great tracks on here is Cherry Red, and this is actually issued in what they call Cherry Red vinyl, appropriately. So where do we go from Split, the Groundhogs? Well, the Groundhogs, or a groundhog, of course, is a rodent, a big one, and a slightly smaller one is a black rat. Which is also known as, or its Latin name is Rattus norvegicus, which takes us to the album 4, bracket Rattus norvegicus, by the Stranglers. So another 70s one. Now we're coming up towards the end of the 70s. I think this was 78. Was it 78 or 77? 77. So a great album. I love this. It's got. This is more of an all killer no filler, I think, compared to some of the later stuff. So whilst La Folie has their most famous track Golden Brown on it, I don't think the whole album is as good as this. You've got sometimes Goodbye Toulouse, London Lady, Princes of the Street, Hanging Around, which is a brilliant one. Peaches is a great one. Get a Grip on Yourself, Ugly, and Down in the Sewer. So Down in the Sewer is the closing track, and it's got sort of it's split into 4 parts really. And that's our link, Down in the Sewer, to the next one, which you could argue that if you went down in the tube station at midnight, it's a bit like going in the sewers. So that takes us to The Jam, another late 70s album, and All Mod Cons. I think this was 78, so a year later. This is my original copy. It is tatty as hell. Unfortunately, back in the 70s, I didn't know how to look after records. I had crap equipment and played them all to death because I didn't have that many. It's got the mod roundels on it. Wella's a year younger than me, and in 78 I was 21, so he was only 20 here, and writing and playing some of the great songs on this: David Watts in The Crown, Billy Hunt, A-Bomb in Wardour Street, Down in the Tube Station at Midnight. So, where are we going from this one? Well, this was released on Polydor. So I've chosen another Polydor record. We come from the 70s, late 70s, so not that long in years, maybe 12, 13 years later, but a million years in terms of musical evolution. And we're coming with Talk Talk's final album, Laughing Stock, a truly amazing album. One, in my humble opinion, which if you watch this you know isn't all that humble, is not only a great record, it's one of the greatest records, for me anyway. It passed me by at the time because I think Talk I'd sort of dismissed as being a fairly average synth pop band, and whilst I don't think they were a very good, I wasn't into synth pop, and these weren't the best, but that's because they should never have been that. I think they sort of started there and fairly quickly wanted to move away from that sort of sound and started evolving it, and you can hear through their subsequent albums a sort of an evolution, and until they got to the stage of Spirit of Eden, which was their final album in the EMI group. I can't remember which bit, I think it might be Parlophone, but and they were even threatened to be sued by them for breach of contract because they weren't producing commercial enough music. So anyway, they ended up for their final one on Polydor, and this track. It's very well known, it's out there, it's very different. It is, as I say, in my opinion, one of the great albums ever. So Talk, that's our link, and people talking on the telephone. And this album is by 10cc, and it's How Dare You. And you know, all these people talking on the telephone, if you want Talk, then you don't hang up, which is also one of the tracks on here, but actually I'm linking it to the cover art in this case because of so many people talking. A fabulous album. Now I said right on the very first album where I was talking about the band Black Midi, that they're often tagged as being art rock, and I just don't think they are. This to me is art rock. 10cc are art rock. They're clever lyrics. It's not heavy. Beautiful songs. You've got two of the great producers and writers and innovators. So you think you've got Godley and Cream in there, who went on to make some of the early magnificent videos. You know, when video started to become a real medium with MTV and so on, and they're famous for producing lots of them. You've got Stewart and Goldman, just great album. There was a run of about 3 or 4 in the mid 70s, and they're all just wonderful songs on there. So where are we going from here? I've got to look at my notes because I can't remember. Yes, 10cc, How Dare You. No. I'll apologise for this, but the link is the exclamation mark. So how dare you has an exclamation mark. So I'm going for another album, and actually there's quite a few links I could do, and I was sort of thinking of things with exclamation marks. I mean, one of my favourite bands is Godspeed You! Exclamation mark Black Emperor, but I decided not to go there, and I'm going to introduce my first live album of this, and one of my favourite ever live albums. And it is Bebop Deluxe live exclamation mark in the air age, and this is an original from '77, and it's one I saw. I saw them on this tour, not where they recorded this, can't remember where they did this, but you know, during the tour they played all over, and I saw them in Birmingham at the time. It's an odd, I mean, it's a fabulous album, but structurally it's a bit odd, because it's sort of, you would have thought they could have made this into a double, because it's a single LP and a single EP, you know, a 7-inch EP and a 12-inch LP. You know, and they were full shows, so they had enough music easily to make a double. So I don't quite know why they did this. A couple of years ago, I don't think it was last year, 2021, I think they reissued it. Now I couldn't afford it. It's a box set, and it was just a lot of money, so I bought the CD version, which you know, had a remastering of this, plus a lot of other, you know, like the whole of the show they did in, I think it was Hammersmith, London. So you know, that's a great CD, but this is my original album, which I'm very fond of, and as I say, it's also got the EP as well. So right, where are we going from here? And we're going right, okay, so Ships in the Night, their track, funnily enough, that was, we talked about a band being sued for not producing commercial enough music. Now, that wasn't the case here, but they were asked by their label to produce a more commercial single, and Ships in the Night was what they did. So they did it reasonably well, and they came up with a great track, which pleased their you know, pleased the label for being slightly more commercial than some of the other stuff. So where are we going from here? Well, Ships in the Night. We're going to Wooden Ships, albeit in this case ships spelt with a J in it. Now, Wooden Ships are a current band, so we've gone from the sort of mid-late 70s up to today, but you know, they've been going quite a long time. They're not a young band. They've got a lot of material. Not sure whereabouts in California, but they're hail from California. This is their most recent album, which is already 5 years old. 2018 this came out, and it's, oh well, there you go, there's the answer, 5. Because that actually is meant to be not a V, but a 5. So this was their 5th studio album, and I think I've got 4 of them on vinyl, and all of them in various digital formats. This was one which came out resplendent in red. Great tracks. It's real sort of, if you don't know them, it's sort of psych rock. They're sort of slightly hippie-ish, but with thunderous drums. So there's a real strong beat in the background, and slightly repetitive, and it works really well. I mean, I think some people don't like that sort of drum beat, but I do, and it tends to sort of flow through. So the leader of this band, leader, guitarist, songwriter, is a guy called Ripley Johnson, and he's got another band with his wife, who are possibly even more prolific than Wooden Ships, and I've got a few of their albums, and they go by the name Moon Duo. So I've got 3 of theirs on vinyl. I think this is, I think, my favourite of them, and it's called Shadow of the Sun. and this came out in 2015. Again, quite psyche, not as heavy as Wooden Ships, different drummer, but it's essentially a husband and wife band. She plays, obviously, he plays guitar, she's on keyboards, and then they've got a drummer. This is all of the vinyl I've got from them is sort of like interesting, shall we say. I've got, so there's one which is splatter, one is bright yellow of the three I've got, and this one is, let me pull it out a little bit because it's sort of, I don't think I've got another one like this. It's purple, sort of marbly affair, so it's quite different. You know, they're a nice band. They're, I think, more accessible than Wooden Ships, I would say. But you know, I tend to sort of bracket them because obviously it's got Ripley Johnson. So anyway, where are we going from here? Well, another husband and wife band. So another trio. Another one where there's the husband and wife are a constant. Only in this case, the wife plays drums. And they've had sort of various basis over the years, and I'm talking about the band Low, and this album is The Great Destroyer. So Low were, shall we say, a married couple, essentially a married couple between Alan Sparhawk and Mimi Parker, and unfortunately Mimi Parker passed away last year with cancer. And obviously that's breaking the band. They're quite prolific over the years. They've got a lot of albums, and their later stuff is quite challenging. You know, they've evolved as a band, and their last sort of 2 or 3 albums with a different producer than the earlier stuff is it's, you know, features quite a lot of distortion, and it's a real juxtapose with Mimi's voice. Which is angelic, I think, and you know, they great harmonies, great songwriters. This album is probably the most accessible, I think, and this came out in 2004. I had it originally on CD, and I came across this on vinyl a couple of years ago, and it's really great. And there are 2 tracks on there. The opener, Monkey, and the 4th one, Silver Rider, were actually covered. Both tracks off this album were covered on the same album by Robert Plant on his 2010 album, Band of Joy. Sorry, I couldn't think what it was called for a second. Which is, you know, high praise indeed. I don't have that on vinyl, so that's not a link. So Low, Mimi Parker and Alan Sparhawk hail from a town in Minnesota, right at the very top. Now I'm probably gonna betray my my poor US geography here, but I sort of am a bit of a geography nerd. I'm a nerd at lots of things, and I sort of carry. I look at atlases. Yeah, I know. And I sort of carry around a mental image of places. So Duluth, I believe, is on the north shore of Lake Superior. What I would call is quite close to the pointy end at the west, and so it's sort of right in the north of Minnesota, hemmed in between Lake Superior and a bit further north the Canadian border. And for the last one, so that was number 19. The last one, I'm going to stay in Minnesota, and I'm going to go a little bit west away from the Lake Superior and a little bit further south and go to the main city of Minneapolis, a son of which was one Prince Rogers Nelson, better known as Prince or Squiggle at some point. And his fabulous album Purple Rain, and I put this in there because I really like Prince, but I thought, having put some, you know, plenty of 70s, quite a lot of OOs and a few sort of bang up to date ones, there was and 90s, I had nothing in there for the 80s because I'm pretty sparse of the 80s, but this is one. You know, Prince was one I loved through them. A lot of the 80s music left me left me behind, to be honest. So I love this one. I mean, it's so well known, not masses to say about it. It's got, you know, Purple Rain, I Would Die For You, When Doves Cry. It's just, you know, Let's Go Crazy. It's a superb album. Also a soundtrack, of course. If we were going somewhere else, there's a lot of links here. So Purple. If I carried on here, I was thinking Deep Purple, and maybe I will carry on at some point from here. But I saw him, like a lot of others, again, it was the mid-00s. Really disappointing. He did, I don't know how long, it was the best part of a month, residence at the O2 in London. And I saw him, I got tickets, I think it was either the second show or the third one. And he just released a new album, and he was determined to play all the new stuff, and it was a bit crap, to be honest. And he was late on stage by about an hour and a half, which I think is fairly common. So it was disappointing, and I think a few shows later in the residence, I think he got the feedback that people really wanted a bit, you know, the greatest hits, which he did. So I saw him and he didn't play Purple Rain, which is a bit sad, but still a great artist. So that's my number 20 to finish that off. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you did, because I'm sort of half tempted to, at some point in the future, to carry this on and maybe do a 20 to 30. So, and then I'll have to remember it, if I do that, to link it from Prince Purple Rain. There's lots of connections we could do from that. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.